Hello, everyone. This is a disclaimer before you all get into the episode. Before you begin before you continue, I would like you to understand that anything and everything that we say on this podcast is our own opinion and our own thoughts. It is not to be taken as a serious matter. It is not to be taken out of context. It is not to be seen as we're attacking anything or anybody or even the show. It is just our own thoughts and opinions on the subjects and topics we talk about, as well as these are also going to be spoiler alerts now, that if you have not seen this anime or have read the manga book, if there is one, then you should not probably continue until you have done so, unless you do not care about spoilers. This is just a disclaimer before moving forward. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Anime Eclipse. This will be our final episode of this season, if y'all didn't know. So I thought I'd let you guys know that. We're going to talk about my favorite anime of all time, period, end of story. Don't think a new one's going to change it. Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm going to have Leo, as always, give the brief description of my favorite show, and we'll get right into going from there.
Running in a crowd in a faceless town, I need to feel a touch of a friend. Today we're going to be talking about Yu Yu Hakusho, the story of Yusuke Urameshi and his team fighting against the forces of evil as a spirit detective of the spirit world.
I mean, that's the gist of it.
We don't want to give him too much information.
So, it's a 90s anime, completely. Done in probably the animation style I like the most, which is the hand-drawn stuff. If there's anything else done with the animation, I didn't pay attention. I personally love this animation style over most others, which is just the hand-drawn looking type of stuff. This anime also has probably one of the most iconic introduction intros ever. I think it's called Smile Bomb. If you want to go look it up, I think that's the name of it. Also, this anime hits different. Aside from inspiring a bunch of other animes you guys watch today and or later on, it really hit home for me. Being one of my first animes watching, period, aside from Dragon Ball on Toonami. Whenever I come home from school, I have a really interesting story I could probably share later about this anime and how I watch anime. We'll probably get into that later. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, Leo could probably add her opinions on this type of thing.
Initially, I was hesitant on doing this anime for our series just because it's so long. But I did find it interesting how after the first 4 episodes with delinquent Yusuke Urameshi becoming a spirit, and so the first 4 episodes is him attempting to get his body back. And we have this romantic development between him and his childhood friend. What was your name again?
Oh, my God.
Keiko.
Keiko. Yeah.
Between him, his childhood friend Keiko, we see them developing that, and like we get to a certain point in those 4 episodes where it's like kind of like a dead end. But then the anime does something that we didn't expect, which it pivots from a romance and it goes more into like a shonen style tournament kind of thing. And I feel like that was pretty ingenious of how they did that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, so when I did research for this thing way back when, and I'm pretty sure it's still the same now, the guy making it wanted to do a romance thing, mix it with other stuff, and he wanted to do a romance thing in general at first, and that's how you get to see it lead into what it is in the beginning, with him and the Keiko, and him trying to like do the stuff, and her having to kiss him to wake him up, all that kind of stuff. And then probably the anime was going to end there. And then he's like, I wanted to keep making more, but I don't know where to go with it. And then that's when he decided, oh, I should just take this action approach and then try to go with that. And then from that point forward, it just kind of became, bam, what it is now. So,
didn't you tell me once that like as the story's progressing, like he's coming up with all this on the fly?
Oh yeah, Yeah, because so after, unless things I don't know, but a lot of the stuff, like, so he went from just to an action thing to basically coming up with a lot of things on the fly as far as like progressing the story. He wanted to go, oh, what do I do? A lot of it came down to, okay, he finishes what he wants to say, and then he goes, how do I move forward? Okay, and then that's where he comes up with like this tournament thing, even though the tournament thing is just a story thing to tell in between, basically to tell one story. He uses a tournament to tell the story rather than just a whole different way of doing it. And then he goes from that to this whole other arc thing of a guy who has personality disorders from watching a videotape. And then you go from that to Who's My Daddy story. I mean, a lot of this, like, it was not planned ahead of time. It just kind of like, oh, this is the next thing I want to do. And then how do I tie this into this and that and, those kinds of things. So he kind of just made it up as he went along, but somehow managed to tie it all together as it goes along. And with the detective things, you'll actually notice it when you watch it. He wanted to add the detective elements to the anime, but didn't know how to make them work. So you'll get a lot of episodes where Botan comes in and she's like, oh, here's this gadget, or here's this thing, and here's that thing. And then you only see him ever use it like once and then never again because he didn't know where to go with that stuff. He just kind of threw it in there to make it sound cool. And then he's like, I don't know what to do with this. Okay, let's move on. So
in preparation of today's episode, I did some research of my own, and I found out that there are actually quite a few differences between the manga and anime. Nothing super extreme, but there are some things, like how in the anime, Yusuke's mom's pretty much a neglectful mother, but in the manga, it's kind of stated that she has ties to the dark world. So when you were prepping for today's episode, was there anything within the story, production wise, that you found out?
I had very little to do with the manga, or anything for that matter, besides, like, again, my shared story about this whole thing and how I do things. The only thing I knew that was different, and you could probably touch on it more, but when you get to like book 6 or 7, manga 7, there's a thing in there that shows Hiei and Kurama being in high school, and then they protect a girl from a demon. They don't really go into context of anything, but it's definitely something that's not shown at all for any reason or has any context that I'm aware of. Besides that, it shows that these two know each other for a long time in the manga book versus it wasn't in the anime at all. But it didn't have any relevance to be there either in the anime. So, again, I don't really have anything past the anime that I'm aware of.
We know that you guys are really into the episode, but we just want to take a quick moment to like, comment, and share this episode with your friends. That way we can make more episodes in the future. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So, because this is my favorite anime, and I've watched this like maybe 4 or 5 times over, like I used to watch this once a year kind of thing. I don't now, over and over and over again. So we're gonna do this favorite character thing and go over characters somewhat differently this time around. So I'm going to bring up characters, and I'm going to either go first or not. But I'm going to bring them up, and I'm going to ask Leo's opinion on these characters, and then probably present mine afterwards. But the thing is, I have to know because this is new to Leo, not me, what Leo thinks about these people. So to start things off, what do you think about Koenma?
I think Koenma is necessary for the story's progression because he's consistently giving Yusuke new items, new missions to go on to. I find him funny. I think that he's a great comic relief in his banter with the ogre and things like that, and like the constant jokes from Yusuke about being a diaper rash or a punk ass baby. The only thing, I like the fact that he's a baby who's like the ruler of the underworld, only below his dad. The only thing that I didn't like about Koenma is sometimes his attitude is unnecessary. It's like, sir, you're asking a 16-year-old to risk his life, chill the fuck out.
I don't know if they ever say his actual age, but how old do you think he is?
Koenma or Yusuke?
Koenma.
How many kids does Kinyama have?
Well, in this one, I'm pretty sure it's just the one. But
so I think Koenma is anywhere from 500 to over 1,000 years old.
That's a long ass time. I'm pretty sure he's in like the only hundreds. I can't say he's
600 plus.
600 plus. Oh yeah, okay. Birthday's October 20th. They actually have okay. They actually have birthdays for these guys. That's interesting. Oh, and right here, he's exactly 670 years old in the manga. And it says he's 666 years old at the beginning of the series.
And how old did you think he was?
I said the hundreds. I didn't know it was like that far up there. I thought maybe like, 400 or 500, not in the like 6 and up, just because of the baby thing. So what did you think of what did you think of Koenma when they needed another person to fill in their slot for the Dark Tournament?
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So did you think that you were actually going to have to see Koenma actually do any fighting and stuff like for his team because they were down a person?
I was hoping he didn't because we all know Koenma's not a fighter. And so what I was thinking of, dude, you're going to fucking die. And so what is that going to leave the rest of the world in if its leader dies? Will there be destruction? Will there be a cross between the demons and humans? Will be like a Revelations thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure Daddy would take over, but I mean, he'd get mad. So, also, besides being probably most important to the obviously the spirit world, what did you think about? I guess the term would be. So I felt like Koenma could have done more, like instead of just sitting back and just letting Yusuke and everybody else handle things. I mean, kind of like how bosses do, I guess. But at the same time, I'm like, you could have done more. Like, here, there, even information or actually doing something. I mean, it's not even until the chapter Black stuff that he does anything, especially about, like, talking about the barrier, where it came from, and all that kind of stuff. But do you feel like he could have done more in his position?
No, I don't think he could have, because of his importance to the balance of the world. Like, you can't put yourself in the front lines like you can with Yusuke. And there's not really much more he can do. He gave him the tools. He actually, didn't he find Genkai, or did he make him train with Genkai? I forget.
No. He found Genkai on his own. Yusuke did, because she was hosting a tournament thing, and he heard about it and went there. I don't think he pushed him in that direction. I think he just kind of stumbled on it, unless the manga's different.
So in that sense, yeah, then he could have did more, but he gave him the assistance. He let him have his own team. I don't think there was much more that he could have done.
Oh, wait, I could be wrong. No, there's a chance that he may have mentioned that there's an old lady, you should go check her out. She does all this great training thing, but then he ran into the fact that it's a tournament-based thing. He's not just going to get trained by her. She's going to pick somebody based off of who wins, rather than just going, oh, hey, I'm going to train you. But yeah, she was just mentioned to him, and then he decided to take the advice, but he didn't know it was going to turn into what he turned into. So moving on from Koenma. So what do you think about Botan? And I bring that up because not just as a character personality thing, because she's bubbly and this and that, and she's fun. I think she's kind of cool compared to some of these other people. Female characters anyway. But her actual role is the Grim Reaper. So what did you think of that? I don't watch enough animes to know how they've done all this before.
Botan's like that one coworker that does just enough to not get fired. Like, in terms of her job as the Grim Reaper. Because she hardly ever does it. But aside from like her Grim Reaper job, Botan is actually my second favorite side character other than Koenma, because everyone else seems to forget that these are children and no one gives a fuck about their safety. And I like that she shows genuine concern for Yusuke as she sees him fighting.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'll agree. She hardly does her job, but I feel like we also don't. I also don't think we get to know enough about what she does behind the stuff Urameshi's doing, because aside from going to him when she's told to and helping him out with his case and doing this and helping him out here or there or giving him information, when she's off doing her own thing, we don't know what she's doing. But she could be helping other people. Granted, there's only one spirit detective, which I thought was weird considering of all the people dying around the world, and she has to be the one to pick them out.
Well, you see in the anime, she's not the only Grim Reaper though. There's like a few other, I think.
Yeah, I think we only meet one other one. I don't even remember what her name is. And they fly around like they're on brooms and witches and all these other weird things. Yeah, I don't. Again, she's not like my favorite like female character, even side character. Really, like I thought she was cool when she showed up, but other than the information to give Urameshi, I also found her somewhat annoying. But
how was she annoying?
I don't know. I just felt like she was annoying compared to some of the other ones. Like, especially like the Dark Tournament stuff. Hey, you should do this and rooting for them and doing this and that and just kind of like being a nuisance being there and hey, we should go do this or hey, we should go do that. Trying to guide the I don't know. It was just I didn't like her all that much then. I liked her more like later on, like kind of the growing on situation. But yeah, early on I didn't really like her all that much.
Okay, that's fair. What else you got?
Oh, I got quite a bit. So what do you think of Kuwabara?
So before we had started watching it, I was talking to someone and they said that Kuwabara sounds like Muscle Man for regular show and never got that out of my head. So it was hard to listen to him talk, but I actually found Kuwabara pretty annoying. But I also respected him and in like his honor code and his loyalty to his friends. But sometimes his antics like reminds me that he's like 14, 16 years old. And I'm just like, I can't fuck with you like I fuck with everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, he went from, yeah, he has an honor code, but at the same time, he was in charge of a bully gang that he like controlled at school. They'd always beat up Urameshi and all this other stuff and whatever. But yeah, no, I felt the same way. Kuwabara felt kind of annoying in the beginning, and then as things progressed into the Dark Tournament and the barricade thing for the Chapter Black, I'm kind of glad he wasn't there for the demon thing all that much. Like he was, but it wasn't like as prevalent. So I think it was just better that way. But yeah, I don't know. He didn't make my list either. But he's just one of those characters that like you serve a giant purpose that I need you here for, but at the same time, I can't hate you. So
I genuinely felt bad for him though that he couldn't go to the demon world. I'm like, yo, he's been here from the jump, and you guys just kind of dump him like he's just some human, and he's like he is the most human. But I'm like, damn, y'all couldn't let him hold the water or something? Let him watch at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought his absence just in the last thing. Yeah, he doesn't have like any ties to anybody there. I feel like they could have given him some kind of tie there to explain his spiritual sense thing, or sixth sense, basically, that he has better than anyone else in the group. I'm really surprised they didn't try tying anything to that. But
like, I feel like at the very least, Koenma and Botan could have brought him along to watch Yusuke's tournament. Like, but y'all said no, fuck him. We're gonna Gohan his ass and make him go study while the world is in danger.
So it also would have been nice to like maybe go back. It would have made no sense, I guess. Like that'd just be filler stuff. But just to be like, hey, what's he doing on Earth while these guys are doing this demon thing over there? But I guess nothing really was going on, or maybe give him some like little side thing he could have been doing over there that we followed while these guys were doing that. But he got the raw end of the stick.
I think my favorite thing about his character though is the fact that he's the only one in the dark about Hiei's sister and how he is spending everybody with an inch of their life. Tell him I fucking dare you.
Oh man, that's like the best joke in the whole thing. And I mean, I thought it was a little annoying that he only won that match because he saw her there, and it was dumb that it happened that way. But I mean, it is what it is because they got rigged. They got fucking gypped that whole fight with that group anyway. But just seeing her show up, all of a sudden he feels better enough to fight this dude, the power of love and all this other stuff to take this dude out and whatever. And then the fact that he's the only one that doesn't know it's his sister and that he would kill anybody that tells him. That's funny. I mean, speaking of Hiei, let's go on to him.
Yes, let's talk about the Sasuke Uchiha of this story.
Before Sasuke exists.
There are things about him that I do like. Like, I like that he's a master of martial arts. I like that he masters the Dragon of Darkness Flame. I like his character style. But, he's not my favorite character. I think, like, his arrogance throughout the whole series just wasn't it for me.
I don't know. I guess I'm really into, like, the edgy kind of people. So that, like, he was my favorite one, still is my favorite one in like the whole show. Just being that weird asshole, like good guy kind of thing. Like, even one of my other favorite parts about him was, so in the Dark Tournament, they do the final thing with the Chigoro thing. He kills Bui with the overpowered darkness dragon thing he can't really control. And then all of a sudden he tells them, hey, I'm going to take a nap, and we better have won this thing when I wake up, or he's going to kill them. All the little threats that he makes to these people when things happen, I think I just get the biggest kick out of. It's just the funniest thing I've ever heard in the whole thing. And then all these other people he makes threats to, and it's like all super serious and all this stuff. And then when he becomes like genuinely interested in something, it intrigues me because nothing really interests him. But that aside, yeah, he's my favorite person. But what did you think about him and how his whole clan works? Like, where he's from, like the reason he hates them.
It reminds me why leadership should not be run by stuffy old people. Because what the fuck made you think it was a good idea to drop an infant over a cliff?
Well, it wasn't supposed to live. That was the whole catch. Because the whole purpose was, it's a clan full of women who can't have, are not supposed to have men. And so if they have a child and it's a male, they're supposed to get rid of it, kill it, so on, whatever. The mom didn't want to, but the old lady forced her hand, says you gotta get rid of it, whatever. And so she goes to do that and drops him off the cliff, thinking he's gonna die, let alone did she know that he was going to live. And now the man, as a baby, from this point forward, has a grudge that he holds against the whole time.
I feel like it's important to note that Hiei was an ugly ass baby.
What? I didn't think that. But I mean, it makes me more interested to figure out how come he wants to spare his sister over everyone in the group. But
I get why he wants to spare his sister, because in his eyes, she's innocent. Like, she was born from the same mother. Like, she had nothing to do with it. But to you motherfuckers who threw me off the cliff, y'all, when I catch you, Ricky, when I catch you. And I am kind of curious as to what did he plan to do with his mother? Like, if she was still alive and she found him, like, what do you think would have happened?
That's a weird question, because considering the fact that somehow or another he remembers what they even did to him at all, either that or he just learns about how their clan works, there's a good chance he just would have killed her too. Just because she ended up actually throwing him off the cliff. But
she didn't throw him. It was her best friend. She was in the back crying.
Oh, was it? I could have sworn she did it. I could have.
Because remember, there's a scene where they're at her grave, and it's like her best friend, and she's like, I've done a horrible crime. I threw a baby over a cliff.
Oh, yeah, okay, no, because she hands him off because she can't do it herself. Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was stupid, but the fact that he can remember as a baby Granted, demons are different, I guess, but they look pretty. I mean, those women looked pretty human to me for being part of a demon thing. But to remember that far back, I mean, that's pretty amazing to me that you could remember even that.
I think the whole like demons looking different thing is based on a hierarchy system. Like the lower level demons look like actual demons, but like the higher class or race the demon is, the more human they look.
That's actually interesting to point out in this anime. I don't know if it works the same way across the rest. That's hard to say because here, I mean, no, I guess it kind of works because as once they get to like B and up, they all become more human looking, and then the rest are just trash. But yeah, I never made that distinction before till now. Now I have to go look that up. So I wonder if that carries on to other things. Moving on from Hiei to his partner in crime in the past, probably what you've told me already. So let's talk about Kurama.
Yes, let's talk about my favorite character of the entire series. Kurama was something else. To like find out that he's the most intelligent character in the whole show, that whatever strength he lacks, he makes up for in strategy. He's able to plan 20 steps ahead. He's super observant in everything. And then to find out later that in his demon form, this man is more ruthless than Hiei. Yo, I was like, when they did that scene in the tournament of like him coming out the smoke and he's like 20 feet tall,
yeah,
and kills that guy with like no remorse, I was like, yes, this is what I signed up for you.
Granted, Kurama is not my favorite, but he's really up there. A lot of women go goo-goo for this man. In my time of ever talking about this, people just bring him up and talk about him and that he's the man. This is the guy. This is the thing. Like he gets brought up a lot. He's the like super favorite. Like if they don't like someone else, like you're a Meshi or some kind of villain thing, no, that's the guy. That's the man right there. I mean, I can't even say he lacks any of that other stuff. He just doesn't want to. Like in his human form, he doesn't want to fight. He would rather talk it out or kind of like Vash, just work it out in a different way and do this other thing. But no, if you bring out the old him, that man don't give a fuck. Even Hiei himself said, I wouldn't want to mess with that. Hiei himself just said, I do not want to mess with. So
what really solidified Kurama as like my favorite character was in his first fight in the dark tournament when that guy threatened to hurt his mother and he put like the seed of death in him.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, I was just kidding. Please spare my life. And he just looked back and was like, no.
Yeah. I can't remember. No, it wasn't the paint guy. It was the other guy. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like all of Kurama's fights were pretty good. Like I can't not watch this man fight. Like even against the rock demon in the Four Saint Beast thing. That the paint guy, the sea guy you're talking about, and as much as you're gonna bash me on this one, he lost to a dead man. He lost to a dead man. No matter how much you want to defend this guy, they had the footage. They showed the time frame. They did the stuff. It's part of the rules that he was.
That's the first time I've seen plot armor go to someone that isn't part of the main cast, because that was purely for the sake of the story. Because there's no fucking way.
Well, no, actually, it couldn't have been for the story because technically they're not playing it by story. They're playing it by pure. That's why I loved it so much. There's no plot armor here. They followed the rules of the tournament. And they were questioning whether or not it counts because he was outside of the ring. It wasn't destroyed. He was outside of the ring, and they have a time clock that you're watching on that screen, and he's outside of the time frame that he's allowed to be, and all this other stuff. And they're actually playing by the rules. They're doing all this weird stuff, and the one thing you're not going to expect was that.
No, that was complete bullshit. Because at that point, Tagura had already killed the whole community. So I'm like, who the fuck is making these rules?
Well, that's the thing. So because he killed the committee that was against Urameshi winning anything, and they were pulling strings that they weren't supposed to be pulling, this wasn't being pulled. It was just part of the rules. They even go over that in the anime thing itself. They even tell you that it's just part of the rules. And they even talked about it early in the tournament. You have a 10 count out there, and they've done it more than once in the anime in other fights in the same dark tournament, is that they start counting. And the only time that there was an exception were 2 times where the ring is destroyed to where the whole now stadium is part of the thing because there's no ring anymore. And then the Jin fight counts because he's not outside of the ring, he's in the air. And there's no rules against that. So it's the only 2 times that they're not counting on people.
So let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Yusuke Urameshi.
Oh my god, this guy. Urameshi, he's something for sure. I could say he's my introduction to a real protagonist. like a real hero dude that doesn't care, that I see a lot of now. I liked him, but at some point there were just times where it was like I don't know if I want to have it how you deal with things around here kind of situation. Like always picking fights with somebody, especially the early stuff. I didn't like the romance stuff. I didn't like how they tried to do his character into the romance stuff. It was weird. I became more attached to Urameshi, I guess, after the Genkai tournament and into the Dark tournament thing. Otherwise, yeah, no, he's just kind of, oh, I'm following this guy along. Yeah, he's a badass. Yeah, he's this cool punk kid, doing his thing. So
I like Yusuke.
You did?
So I liked Yusuke because he had all the quality traits that I like in a shonen anime.
Very specific with that.
Damn right. Because you can't get away with this shit in like a seiki or like an adult anime.
Well, I'm learning, so no, I don't know.
You'll figure it out. Anyway, because he has like a lot of traits that I grew up with. Like he's quite similar to Naruto, the delinquent main character who matures as the story progresses. And I like that not only his maturity and his fighting style progressive, but like we see him much like Ichigo from Bleach. We go through his progression as as a fighter, like how he inches his way towards each step of the power.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the final arc, it's like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like we finally made it. We are the ultimate being. Not necessarily for Yusuke, but you get the idea. I feel like he was just a great character. I loved his development. I loved everything about him.
I feel like he provided me enough to follow, like the comedic relief here and there, and then his not caring attitude situation toward like everything. It's just, and if you're gonna fuck with his woman, he's gonna fuck you up. Even though I feel like that was slightly a weird cop-out thing with the Tagoro thing, but it was a necessary push. I just felt like, I don't know, he didn't become interesting to me until we just got way later down the line. Otherwise, before that, he's like, oh, cool, we're following this guy. Yeah, he's like comedic relief in the beginning and all this other stuff, but otherwise, yeah, no, he's not like probably my 4th favorite character in the whole thing.
I like him because he's so willing. Like his viewpoints on life are so basic. Like whenever he faces danger or like moral like peril, he likes to yell at like, this is stupid, because he's right. The fact that he has to be in this situation is fucking stupid. He's died like twice in this series.
Yeah.
And then, but I like that he has his friends and companions to like make him a less selfish character, and not only like gets driven harder towards the end of the series when he realizes that he has these connections with so many people because of his warrior spirit.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes back to my thing with him. I got more and more interested into him. Like by the time we got to the end of the Dark Tournament to the Chapter Black thing, and then we start getting to learn more in the Chapter Black thing. We start getting to learn more about the spirit detective stuff, and that like, oh, there's this lady before him and this Sensui guy, and then now we get to his daddy thing, and then now just all that stuff made me care about him more than I did in the beginning. I don't feel like the beginning for him gave me enough to play with or to character development wise for me to care, besides his not caring attitude situation.
So I understand how Yu Yu Hakusho is related to Bleach, because in both Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, the power system is pretty limited. Like in Bleach, we have the Zanpatos and like I think one other power system like Zanpatos, the Bankais, the Shinkais. And this one, Yusuke has a very limited arsenal of what he can use. You know, he has his spirit gun, and then what else does he have?
He has he actually has quite a few tools at his disposal. But what he uses is, so he has the gun, then he has an adapted thing that he used before only when they were trying to save Hiei's sister from the first time they met Toguro. And that's where he pulled the shotgun out. He actually just did the shotgun thing, but that's the only time you see it. Maybe one other time. Besides that, Botan gives him like a bunch of other gadgets. He just never really uses them. Like there's a spyglass thing that he could use to view like if someone's a demon or not, or look through it, that kind of thing. The other thing is, and it's probably one of my favorite moments, she pulls out a whistle, and it's like a dog whistle. They hate that sound, but it's for demons. They hate it when you're blowing it. Humans can't hear it. And Hiei just falls out of a fucking tree after she fucking blows the whistle. And then he starts cursing out the fact that, what was that awful noise? But yeah, like I said, he's got quite a few things. It's just the gun thing that seems the most prominent that they use in the show. And other things are just martial arts tricks or this or that or speed or this. Or it's not really like a new thing until he gets Genkai's extra power, I guess. And even then, he still just uses the gun mainly.
So that was the point I was getting at, is that, you know, aside from like his spirit detective items, like he really just has spirit gun, the shotgun, and an immense massive energy. And what I like is his ability to adapt so quick each fight and to think on his feet in order to win, which you see a lot in animes, especially like with the main characters. But I like how when his back's against the wall, he's able to prevail.
So the interesting part about that, the best example for Yusuke in a situation like that is during the Saint Beast arc situation. When he goes to fight the last dude, who's just nothing but like throwing lightning bolts at him and this and that and whatever, the man comes up with a way to stop him. And what is it? He takes off his fucking shoes. Why? Because they're made of rubber, which is stopping the lightning. That is the
one
most...
time you paid attention to class.
Out of all of the stuff, out of all the times that he could have been creative, it was right there. Right there showed that he super thinks on his feet about things. Because any other time that it was highly important, like super, super important, I feel like it didn't work out that way. One example is Toguro he attacked his lady, so it's the love thing, that thing, brought it out, did the thing, okay, hoo-hoo. But then you go back to Rando in Genkai's tournament, the cheesiest cop-out ever. He had fucking seaweed in his ear and didn't hear the chanting going on, so the bad guy's shit didn't work. That's some bullshit cop-out thing. And then you finally get to, like, his daddy's arc, and then he just loses the tournament there. He just passes out from going all out. He doesn't really win anything. So again, the Saint Beast thing where he's fighting the final boss and he has to think on his feet to save Keiko by pulling out his shoes. That is probably the most creative thinking on his feet that's ever saved his life. Period.
All right. Anything else for characters?
Now that we've pretty much talked about the main cast and our opinions on them, besides the ogre, but I guess not important, even though kind of important voice acting wise, but we won't talk about that. So let's go ahead, and I want to bring up, so who's your favorite villain and why?
So my favorite villain was Yusuke's predecessor, which is Sensui, one of the first spirit detectives that Koema hired. What I liked about this character was, initially when he started working as a spirit detective, he had a clear view of right and wrong, black and white. He was a very virtuous person. If you were a good person, he would treat you with kindness and respect. But if you were a demon, then he would kill you mercilessly, but he wouldn't be sadistic about it. He would just get straight to the point. Until one day he goes on a mission and he goes into this mansion, he sees these humans creating these atrocities on demons for simple pleasure. And so that when that happens, his world goes from black and white and he can't fully comprehend the gray that is happening before him. And so that causes him to go into like this entire downfall and leads him to like the events of with Yusuke Urameshi. What I liked about why he's my favorite character is because for what was this early 2000s anime, I think that they did a fair job of depicting what is it? Dissociative personality disorder? Is that what it is?
It's a multi-personality disorder, but I can't remember what the term is called.
Well, depicting multiple personality disorder, and what I also liked was how he wasn't wrong. Humans have created such atrocities throughout history that I get why he thinks that we are now the bad guys and the demons are now the innocent. I get where he's coming from.
Oh yeah, no, so he's not my favorite, but I really enjoyed the whole story, the whole arc with him and being corrupted after seeing what is known as the Chapter Black, the videotape thing or whatever. But after seeing the humans do all this terrible things to demons for pleasure, which, by the way, has led to giant interpretation because you don't get to see much of any of it, just his shocked face and all this other stuff. He then, like you said, comprehend any of it, does all this other stuff. But the fact that his personalities are literally, you get to see it more toward the end of the arc, but they're literally different people. They talk different to whoever and so on and whatever. They all have different names. They all have different whatever. And they all fight differently also. So based on which one that you're dealing with, like, yeah, you get to see that fight with Yusuke, and I can't remember which one came out, but I guess he was more ruthless than the first Sensui he was dealing with. I don't know if we get to see all 7 of them, but he brings it up because he brings up how many and all that good stuff. But no, the whole arc's great. And like you said, I feel like they did a good job of tackling this disorder and how it kind of functions, but obviously not for everybody, especially being as early as it was. And him as a character alone, like being like his whole goal, I'm pretty sure, I think he states it early on. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he states it early on that I think his whole goal is to stop any spirit detective that Koenma brings along because of what he learned. Like, he doesn't want us to stop the demons from doing their thing because it's not fair. That he doesn't think it's fair that we get to kill them and then they can't do the same to us, kind of thing. So, and that he wants to rip open the barrier so that way the demons can come over and do what they do over here and all that kind of stuff to get revenge for the horrible things we've done to their kind. So, but it's an amazing arc. I mean, he's not my favorite person, but he's really, really cool. And I haven't seen enough anime to tell you. I don't know if there's even another character like his that they do in this way anywhere else.
You said that we're going to get into like the arcs later, right?
Yeah.
All right, then I'm done.
Okay. So if that's yours, I mean, mine is it's I feel like it's a cop, but younger Chigoro is probably just up there for me. The man, I feel like the fact that when we first met him and he faked his death just to invite Yusuke to, hey, you got power, I want you to come over here and you're gonna fight me. Okay, intimidating enough. And then you go on this whole trip of just learning that he just wants somebody to be able to fight him on his level, and he's never been able to do that again because there's nobody in the human world that can match his strength. So that's why he got with the butler guy, so that way they could build a portal so he could go to the other side to obviously get stronger and fight bigger people than him. But just that whole thing, and to have Yusuke defeat him because he feels like he's already reached his peak. He's like, yeah, I've done everything I set out to do. I just need someone to kick my ass and beat me already. And there isn't anyone else that can do that. But I know you can. So the fact that he goes through all that trouble just to do that. And I feel like Toguro, even though they go over all this stuff and how he splits off from Genkai and his reasonings and this and whatever, he just wanted to be the strongest man ever. And he got to that point, he did his stuff, and like he met his goals, and he's like, now I'm just done. And now I need someone to stop me. Now I just need to like end it. Like, I don't know, it's just a really cool ending for this character and how it just progressed from like this whole background thing in the past, how it leads up to the characters that Urameshi knows. And then this is the guy that has to do it. And he didn't just pave his way to get there. He made him work his ass to get there. He just invited him. He made the rest do that until the committee was like, I don't want this guy to win. And then, of course, instead of being a bad guy and letting it happen, he intervenes and said, no, quit fucking with the rules. Just let the things play out the way they play out. And he goes and kills the committee because they're not listening. Like, he's a very humble guy. He has very certain intentions. Unlike his older brother, of course.
Yeah, so when I was first watching it, like, I see the Toguro brothers. I see that these are some fearsome ass creatures, only to later find out that they're only mid-level demons. But, you know, we see them, and I'm kind of just like, so why are you picking on this 14, 16-year-old kid right now? It's giving bully. And that was my thought the entire Dark Tournament until like we finally like he reveals like why he picked Yusuke. And like I understand that. And like his idealism behind his relationship with Yusuke and himself is quite similar to like Satoru Gojo from JJK. Like you become the strongest, and at what point what happens now? There is no one who can beat you. What else is there for you to do? And so he made his executioner, and I don't necessarily respect it, but I like the effect that it had on Yusuke in the later arcs.
Yeah. I mean, I also just like the weird dirty tricks he pulled to make things happen. Like, for example, the first dirty trick was, oh, I played dead. You didn't actually kill me the first time we met. And then he meets him in the fucking parking lot and then fucking demolishes the fucking parking garage just to show him what he's coming up against. And then he fucks with him again. Like if you go to the close to the end of the Dark Tournament after the end of the Dark Tournament where he's fighting Yusuke already. Yusuke's not strong enough and he's not pushing himself. And so what does he do? He gets Kuwabara to walk over to, I don't know if he walked over to him or he walked to him, but the thing was he fake killed Kuwabara to make it seem like he actually killed him to get to Urameshi. And even that wasn't enough to push this dude over the edge. And then, oh, well, if that's not enough, what about your woman? Like, I mean, he gave Urameshi plenty of chances to be like, come on, dude. Just fucking push yourself. Genkai gave you the power to do this. Why do I have to resort to this thing to get you to get there? If that's what it takes, I'm gonna do it. So
his motives behind his actions are quite selfish, but I like the complexity of this character. He kept us guessing on our toes, and you know, I respect him. I respect him, not his actions, damn sure not his actions. But I respect him as a character that he's just not like this ruthless bad guy that we typically see in these animes. He only went after Hiei's little sister because it was his job. Yep. Like he wouldn't have done it any other way.
Nope.
So
he wasn't even happy that they had to. He even He even told the Hiei's sister, "You could make this easier on yourself. You don't have to have it this way. But if this is what we have to do to make you cry, then." I mean, he tried giving her advice about it, but I mean, it's just part of his job. But at the same time, he wouldn't want to have done it.
I like how at the end of his arc, you can see that he holds a lot of regret of how he became what he is. And I like how when he's on his way to hell, he asks Genkai to make sure that Yusuke doesn't take the path that he chose.
Yeah, I mean, that was a super, like, the whole thing, just in general. So with that being said, granted, these are probably the top two best villains in all of this anime that most people pick. But I mean, at the same time, I'm also glad we talked about them. But I think so. Now we're gonna probably start talking about the arc, though. So with all these arcs that led into weird things, into weird things, into weird things. So which one? Not which one, but which three in order are your least to favorite, and then why those ones? Mostly the reason of why your favorite one.
And you said it was least a favorite?
Yeah. So your top three, starting from your least favorite at 3, obviously then 2, then your favorite.
Least favorite, Demon World. Second favorite, Dark Tournament. First favorite, Chapter Black.
So besides Sensui, obviously, because we already talked about him and why he's your favorite dude, what more about the arc itself did you like that makes it your favorite?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Lade. It's because the Chapter Black art is for like the arc revolves around this videotape that's part of a set that shows like the atrocities that mankind has accumulated over the years, thousands of hours. And what I liked about this was that they basically broke the fourth wall when they were explaining that. They were talking about like the killings, the murders, and where they broke the fourth wall was when they were talking about a bomb being dropped on innocent women and children, and that was alluding to America and the Hiroshima bombing. I also like this is because it was funny to me how in this arc, Kurama was pushed to his absolute limit, like with his patience. They tried him every step of the way. But it also showcased how smart he really is. Like he's going against this guy. He outsmarted a guy in his own territory. I forgot how he did it, but the way he did it was actually really cool. This is also the cruelest we've ever seen Kurama because in this arc, he ends up killing a kid by beating him at his own game. And then he puts Elder Toguro in this eternal loop of him fighting himself. So it's like it was really Kurama that made it my favorite arc so far.
So out of that arc completely, I'm glad you brought it up. The whole thing where he's doing the territory thing with that other guy, it's probably my favorite part of that whole arc is just that territory fight with that other dude. And the whole thing is, I guess after so many seconds go by, you lose a letter of the alphabet and you can't say certain words that have those letters in them. And if you do, you lose your soul. You're gone. You're just dead. And so he got the guy to pretty much laugh, is what happened, by making a face and doing something weird. And so it caused the guy to laugh and whatever, and that's how he lost. And the thing with the kid, that was fucked up. The kid didn't understand what would happen when he lost, and he was trying to get him to understand you don't have to go through with this whole, like, thing, but if we do, this is what's gonna happen to you. Then the kid's like, oh no, but I'm gonna die and all this. Oh man, that was fucked.
And like the way they did that is like he's playing the game with him and he's like explaining to him like, what do you think happens if I win? He's like, oh. And he's like, look man, it's either you or my friends, and I pick my friends. And then they do that whole silhouette where it's Kurama's face and you see like the shadow coming across his face, and the next thing we hear is doof, the kid's body hitting the floor.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Like, I mean, I'm glad they go over it. A lot of people don't even remember that he kills the kid. People just assume or think that, oh, the kid will be fine and blah, blah, blah. No, they don't even really bring it back up. So it's just kind of lost out of people's mind with all the other shit going on.
Well, it's because it takes away from the whole Prince fantasy that they have with Kurama.
Yeah, but Kurama's ruthless. Like, yeah, he's in his human form when he does this, but I mean, come on now. Look who the man behind the mask is.
And then I like that while they're still in the cave, they're reading his mind and saying, like, oh, yeah, it bothered you more than this, more than that. And then he was like, Yusuke, get the fuck back. I am so fucking tired of all you motherfuckers. That's really what he really wanted to say. Because he turned to Yoko so fucking fast. He was done. He was fucking done.
The other thing good about your favorite arc that doesn't get mentioned a lot is no winner really becomes of it. But Urameshi will ultimately probably win the situation. But they did a Hiei versus Urameshi when he meets back up with him for the first time. That was cool because it's the first time that Hiei is a good guy in this section. He doesn't actually have to beat his ass as a demon. So that was fun to watch.
Speaking of those two, I feel like I noticed that out of all the four, I feel like Yusuke has a soft spot for Hiei because of how he talks to him. He talks to him with the most respect out of all the four of them.
Yusuke to Hiei or the other way around?
Yusuke to Hiei.
Oh, okay.
Did you notice that?
Well, I feel like that has a lot to do with their first encounter when he had to fight him as a demon. I think it has a lot to do with that. And so now there's a mutual respect between them both, especially since he has a warrior spirit and pretty much he is nothing but violence. So, yeah, I mean, they're like best friends, but not at the same time.
I would say respected coworkers. If you want to talk about best friends, I would say Yusuke and Kurama have more of a best friend vibe. To talk more as equals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to get into the whole Kuwabara thing, where that kind of like they bet Yusuke picks on him on purpose kind of thing. But I don't know. There's multiple friendship weird stuff between all of them. As for my favorite three. So the Demon World one has to go to the bottom. Number 3. And as much as I really do like the Chapter Black thing, I'm gonna have to replace it with probably the Saint Beasts as my number 2. Just because it was very different. And it's early on in the whole thing, but it's just very different. And then obviously mine has to go to the Dark Tournament. So I really like about the Dark Tournament. Despite that Toguro is the instigator of the whole thing, I like that we get to go through every single fight logically. I like that it goes through every single character, the rules, this. We get to meet some other cool characters like Jin or the drunken guy, or the Yo-Yo Kid, and even people you don't like that was on the Yo-Yo Kid's team that was an arrogant fire guy who thinks he could do better fire stuff than Hiei and then just died instantly. Just a bunch of cool different characters, a bunch of different stories, backgrounds, and all these things for in this arc. And the fact that we get to go through each individual fight as far as Durameshi's thing goes. Yeah, okay, we don't get to see every other fight happen, but we got to see all his and all these characters and all this cool thing. And my favorite character out of all of those guys goes to that clown guy that Genkai beats the shit out of, because he had you're just gonna have to go find the episode and watch it. But his whole God speech that he does, I wish I could have found it before this thing, because I tried already and I couldn't find a good clip of it. But the Great Suzuka is probably the best character. Otherwise, if it's not him, it goes to Jin, the Irish guy. He's too fun. He's a lot of fun. Otherwise, yeah, I just really like the pacing of that arc, all the stuff that leads up to it, and all the stuff you get to learn in between that, lore stuff between Genkai and Toguro and the older Dark Tournament that they were a part of. And there's just so much to consume in just one arc that I would have been okay if they just ended it there. They didn't have to go into Chapter Black and Daddy and all this other stuff. So
I really enjoyed the Dark Tournament because I've seen a lot of tournament animes, which is why I stopped watching shonen. It's because they have so much a lot of fluff and a lot of slow pacing. But I really enjoy the Dark Tournament arc because it gets right into it. Even though I believe it's 64 episodes long, it makes up a good chunk of the anime. I think my favorite battle out of the whole Dark Tournament was when this guy was going up against Karama and he had like this box and it did like this age regression thing, but he didn't know that Karama was actually the Yoko. I have never seen you done fucked up moment.
Yep.
And I liked that how they did it. It was like with the smoke, Karama is now 20 feet tall. You can see in his eyes, he has no sense of empathy whatsoever. And the way he just toys with his prey, I love the sadism behind it.
Well, what's also interesting is you get to find this out later, but that's called the ideal box, or it's pronounced in some kind of way that way. That tool was made by the great Suzuka. All the tools on that team were made by him. The Banshee Shriek Sword thing, the cloak thing he used on Kuwabara, that box, the handle hilt that Kuwabara gets to use later on against Togoro. All these cool things were made by that clown. Like, if you didn't know that or forgot that was a thing. But
me personally, I would have jumped out the ring the first chance I got. Like, you know what? I fucked up and I'm sorry. I'm just going to go ahead and disqualify myself.
I mean, that's a good fight. It is like that team as a whole that character is a part of. But I don't know. Mine's a real toss up because if you're talking individual battles, the one with Jin is really good. The one with the drunk is a lot of fun in the beginning because Urameshi was sleeping the whole fucking time. The only time this fucker wakes up is, oh, I gotta fight this dude because, no one else is on the team that's allowed to, so I'm gonna fight this guy. And then it's a knife edge death match. It's not a regular fight. They're not just gonna battle it out. The drunk dude gets him to, they take off their shoes, they put the knives in the ground, they do the whole just punching each other to who lasts the longest. I think that's probably the best individual fight. As for the team thing, like best overall team fight thing with all of them included, I think that has to go to the doctor. The doctor who was controlling those three humans, who's told them that, hey, I can save your master and all this other stuff, and then tricked him into working for him and doing all that fucked up shit.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of like tied in with the Vash ideal that there's always another way. Because me, I would have killed him. You asked to die, I'm going to kill you.
I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting just because it's like, oh, because now Kurama has to think, Kuwabara has to think, and it's like, oh, we can't just kill these guys. They're human. And like, they're just vessels, and they're like, oh shit. Like, they didn't want to kill them, and it made it harder for them to fight them when they could have just murdered them.
There is something I want to bring up. This is from like the Dark World arc. And that final fight between Yami and Yusuke. I don't know why it stuck with me. But the fact that Yami had Yusuke by his head and said, motherfucker, you did bar all this together. You stepped to my place like a big man, and now you want to tell me you don't want to fucking fight? I will beat the fighting spirit into you, bitch. I loved it because I felt it like, no, you ruined my fucking day. No, you're gonna fight today, bitch.
Well, so like that whole thing I thought was super cool. That like, okay, they barely started this whole tournament thing, and I was down to sit down and wait for the whole thing to be over. I was not expecting the way that whole thing went at all. Like, but then when he's like, I want you to give me your all. I didn't come here to do this stupid shit, and you made me do all this stuff, and now we all have to fight for this? Yeah, no. Okay, I'm totally on the bad guy side now. But at the same time, I'm sitting here like, oh, shit. Then Yusuke gets up and says, okay, well, I don't have much left in me, but I'm going to give all my energy out right now. And then I want you to do the same. And then because of those two, it inspires the rest of these guys to do the same. And that's how we ended up with that random guy at the end. Because everyone else who was strong enough was just exhausted. But that whole thing, I'm just glad neither one of them won. It was the first time I could say, oh yeah, look cool, the good guy didn't win this time. There's no plot armor here. So, all right. Before I go into a little story time mode, tell you all how it took me a decade to finish this whole anime and how I watch anime today. Leo's gonna talk about this one part of the Dark Tournament real fast, and then we'll move on to that.
So at this point in the Dark Tournament, we're coming up on the final fight between Urameshi and Toguro. And so Urameshi is quite aware that he is the underdog and he does not have the power to beat Toguro. So his teacher, Genkai, gives him one final test. So she takes him to a cave and she gives him, I want to say, about 80 to 90% of her spiritual power and transfers it to Yusuke. But before she does that, she lets him know, hey, this can kill you. And he's like, for my family, for my friends, I'm willing to do this. So she transfers it to his body. And almost immediately, we see Yusuke on the ground. We see the wounds being created on his body. We can hear the screams and everything. Like it's to the point where Genkai, who is probably one of the third most cutthroat person in the show, other than Hiei and Kurama, showing genuine remorse and regret for what she's doing to this child. And what I really wanted to highlight is that Yusuke's determination to survive and to win this fight in order to help the ones he loves is unparalleled to a lot of characters in anime. And then we just see that further afterwards, after he's completely beat up for about a couple of hours. He's going through this torture, and then his pet, who's a reflection of his personality, comes in and tries to help him. And then there's this rock that comes down and almost crushes Pew. And then that's when Yusuke is like, no. We're getting the fuck out of here. So he hikes up his pants and saves them. Is there anything you want to add to that?
So, yeah, I have to add to it because the whole thing, this is the first and only anime so far, mind you, to ever make me cry. Granted, I was younger, but at the same time, I've never felt so emotional about the situation. Not just because of his determination and stuff like that, but so that spirit animal, which by the way, the name is Pooh, P-U, not poop. So Pooh is his spirit animal thing, and it feels what he feels. It has this huge thing that whatever he's feeling, it feels. And the whole thing where he's pretty much just dying in agony on the floor from this thing that Genkai gave him to get stronger. Pooh is trying to go get water from this little pool of what I guess there's like a pool of water on the floor somewhere. He's trying to bring water to him to help him, to save him, to help him, and he's struggling, and he's like, because he has to feel the same way Yusuke does, and he keeps spilling the water. He can't get the water to Yusuke. He can't do any of this stuff to try and help Yusuke out, and it really got to me. Like, I didn't think I'd be so attached to this thing as I was, but like I'm like, no, you can't get it to him. Like, I was just like, I don't know. Like, I was super into it. And I was watching it on TV at the time when I was watching it. It was pretty emotionally fucked up for me. But yeah, first time an anime got me to cry with this whole thing going on.
And then, like, I'm pretty sure the viewers by now understand that I'm a pretty heartless person. But this scene for me, seeing how desperate both of them were to survive, and Yusuke's willingness, like his last ditch effort to save them. I don't know. It really I just felt it in my heart, like it hit home for me, and I don't know why.
I mean, it hit home for me, not just because of the Pooh thing, but because of the whole thing that, oh, this thing can kill you. And this show is not pulling any punches. Like, it's not doing things because of plot armor. I can defend this anime in a lot of different random sections where it doesn't do things in this anime just because of the hero has to. It just does things, and it has a logical explanation most of the time behind it or behind their reasons of what they're doing. And they're not just emotional feelings for things. Very few exceptions of those in this anime, but at the same time, like the fact that he could have died from this, it could have been over. We obviously wasn't going to happen, but we didn't know that watching it. Like we really felt how he felt going through this fucking pain. And it's just like, and the fact that she wanted to come over, it's like, oh, this is too much for you. Let me try and take it back. And the fact that he's determined enough to say, no, go away, you bitch. This is mine. And then he's still going to fight through it anyway. It's just that struggle. I think anyone who's been through a hardship similar to how he has in any sort of way is going to really like resonate with this whole situation.
Because I feel him. Like you gotta remember, up to this point, he's faced a lot of trials and tribulations. And then this is just one of the biggest ones he's faced. So if you think I'm going to climb this mountain and quit now, you're out your fucking mind.
Yeah. And then, like I said, it just escalates from here. But like it's a huge moment. It's a huge emotional moment, and not just because of Yusuke either. Genkai's gonna die pretty much after this. And if that didn't also hit you, like the best old woman ever is gonna die in front of you. So
I'm not gonna hold you, shorty. After a while, Genkai was kind of looking kind of good.
Well, I mean, it's just this badass grandma comes along and like, this is like one of my first animes ever. And I'm like, no, you're not going to do that to this person. She can walk away and no, it's her time.
I mean, like, she's not a baddie no more like she was when she was younger. But as an old woman, like, low key, she can still get it.
So, but yeah, no, that's a thing.
So what's your excuse as to why it took you 10 years?
Oh, don't even get me started. So, so this anime, and this story time for everybody now, but it took me 10 years to finish this anime. And it's because I went from, I don't know why this is what it is, but it is for me. So I went from watching it on TV, and I watched it from the beginning all the way to like, what pissed me off is they get to like the final part of the Dark Tournament where Yusuke's team is going to fight Tagoro's team, but they never actually get to those fights at all. At least I never got to. And every time I'd come home and go watch Toonami to go, oh, we're going to get to the next shit. Oh no, what do they do? What do they do? They go fucking back. They go to like previous episodes and restart from somewhere else. And it had nothing to do with the later seasons or nothing. They just never got to where I was supposed to continue off of. So I got mad at that. And I'm not a person of spoilers by any means necessary. I will not go look this shit up. I will not ask people about it. I don't know that people are all that interested. So I just never got into looking up this stuff. And of course, growing up, I didn't have anybody asking me about anime or any of this other stuff, or, you know, what do you watch and that kind of thing. That kind of stuff never came up. So then eventually, when I got older and I got money and I got time, I found out these were on DVDs, and I went and bought my own versions of them. And then I ended up watching them 10 years later and actually finished it out. Like I actually sat there, went back to the Dark Tournament, watched it from there, all the way to watching season 3 for the first time ever. Like, what the fuck's this Chapter Black stuff? And then, oh god, he's got a daddy. Oh my god, what is all this cool shit? I didn't even know there was 2 more seasons after where I was stuck, and I had 10 years of not knowing any of this, no spoilers, not looking it up, not doing any of this stuff. And then I do the same thing with all the other animes I watch. It's also why it's going to take me forever to get through a bunch of this stuff. One Piece is taking me quite some time. I'm still not done with it. I was watching it from back then. I know a few things I shouldn't, but not many. And that's already a struggle because I have people pressuring me to finish this stupid thing. But I will take my time watching an anime if I have to. I don't know why it slows me down. I don't know why, like, I won't look it up. I'm just not a spoiler person. I don't know what it is, but I'll wait. I'll wait as long as it takes to finish this thing. I don't know if I ever told you, but Trigun was kind of the same way. I watched bits and pieces here and there on Adult Swim, but I never knew like the order it was in, what episodes there were. It wasn't till someone gave me the box set that they had to watch all 26 episodes in a row that I actually did, but I did twice. So we're pretty much going to get into our closing statements, and there's no predictions required here. The anime's been around for who knows how long. It says 1993. We're in 30 years later? Is that where we are now? There hasn't been a sequel announced yet. I don't think they're going to. The man that has been working on this has been working on Hunter x Hunter. He has a lot of medical issues, and he can't even finish that right now. So, with that also being said, we're just going to give you our ratings, and that's about this anime and how we feel about the rest of it. And for the rest of you who do care, I don't. I'm going to watch it anyway. Netflix is doing a live action version of this, and it's coming out soon.
So this was my first time watching Yu Yu Hakusho, because during this time period, I wasn't born yet. Also, I was focused on Naruto. But anyway, there is actually no complaints about this anime. I actually want to give it so much praise for its pacing, because I've dealt with a lot of shonen who take forever just to get to the fucking point. But the pacing on this is great. The character development was great. The action, the animation for its time period was great. This anime is honestly a 10 out of 10 anime. The only thing that I wish would happen is I wish that since it's almost 30 years since the end of the anime, I wish they would kind of do like a 1 hour special of where they now, like an update on what Yusuke Urameshi's doing and like the rest of the gang since entering adulthood.
I mean, I don't disagree. It'd be nice to have like what they did for Trigun. Trigun got a hour and a half movie special of things that take place like 3 or 5 years later, and same voice actors, same everything. It was great. It just felt like a really long episode, and they didn't have to really change anything. If they did that for this, I'd be happy. I'd be totally down. And as I told you all from the beginning, this is already a 10 out of 10 for me. This is my favorite anime out of everything I've ever watched, even to this day, watching this other stuff. This is just, for me, the pace. It's not. I didn't even know the pacing was great. I never kind of chalked it up to that, but it is. I just like all the characters, the character developments, all the stuff that gets brought up, just everything we go through, just everything. Besides the very first part, I will tell you that you can skip everything that happens with Keiko in the beginning. The only thing you'll get out of it is spirit egg thing that is important later. Otherwise, you can pretty much skip that all the way to him going to fight Hiei for the first time after they steal the artifacts. Otherwise, yeah, I'm totally down for the whole thing. And I can watch this all in 1 week, once every year.
So that is our episode. This is the last one of the season, right?
It is. It is.
So we will see you guys next season. We got a bunch more animes coming to you. In the meantime, we're going to keep our presence on social media. We're going to post a lot of Would You Rathers on our social media accounts, so keep an eye out for those. We thank you guys for the support for our first season. We can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, it's been an amazing ride, and we will see you when we come out with season 2.